there is a tool that is given to trusted entities that can change your Ghost module from EU to FCC mode. It's not a hardware thing, it's a software fix, as you might have imagined. But ImmersionRC does not make that tool available to the public. And this is an area where ImmersionRC has historically differed from TBS. And it's worth calling out. TBS's attitude towards regulations, this is my take on it. This is my take. This is not an official policy, but so for the record. But TBS's attitude towards regulations has been that TBS will do just enough to keep the regulatory bodies from noticing and finding them or suing them or whatever they do, while still allowing users to break regulations if users choose to do it. So when TBS ships you a Crossfire module, it is not region locked, and it is on you to set it to the correct region. And if you choose not to set it to the correct region, that's you breaking the rules, not TBS. And so far that seems to work. It's the same with their VTXs. TBS doesn't sell a separate Unify VTX in the European Union that is locked to 25 milliwatts. They just sell you a VTX. It is locked at the time that you get it, and you may unlock it, and it is relatively trivial to unlock it, but that keeps the regulatory bodies happy and it keeps the users happy. ImmersionRC has taken a much more strict perspective, and this goes all the way back to the ImmersionRC Tramp, that in the European Union, they sell them locked, and you would need, with the old Tramp VTXs, they had the wand, the NFC wand, NFC, yeah, the near field wand. And there was a wand, a race director's wand that could change or unlock or lock a VTX, but it was not available to consumers. And basically, if you bought a Tramp in the European Union, it was locked and that was it. So ImmersionRC carries this forward with the Ghost system. That if you buy it in the EU, it's locked. I actually don't know that for sure. I'm taking that based on your comment, but it's consistent with ImmersionRC's previous behavior. And this is a tough one because as a consumer, most people don't give a crap about obeying regulations as long as they don't get fined or jail time or whatever. As long as they don't get slapped, they don't care. They just want their system to perform. So people in the EU are happy to run their VTXs at higher than 25 milliwatts, even though they're not supposed to. People in the EU are happy to do the FCC hack on their DJI systems and run them at higher than 25 milliwatts, even though they're not supposed to. And ImmersionRC says, we are going to keep the regulators happy. We are going to be the good guys here. But it isn't necessarily what their customers would prefer. And there isn't really anything you can do about that. There is no hack that would convert your Ghost module from EU to FCC. I mean, if you were to get a hold of that tool that lets you change regions, that does exist, that ImmersionRC has, then you could do it. But there isn't anything in the public. So there you go. And I don't know. Because I don't think it's gonna, what's the deal with RF regulations? It's about limiting interference and making sure that we don't have a tragedy of the commons situation where one bad actor ruins it for everybody. If there was one guy out there spamming the 2.4 gigahertz band with white noise, just broadcasting 10 watts of white noise, it would ruin it. Your Wi-Fi wouldn't work. Tracer, Ghost wouldn't work. All of these things that we do that are so useful to us would stop working. So there are people who say, F the regulations. The regulations are dumb. Who cares? And I don't feel that way. And some of that comes from having been an RF professional in my past life, that radio frequency doesn't work. It only takes one jerk to ruin it for everybody. And the regulations are how you prevent that from happening. So I don't think the regulations are just F the regulations. because then we just wouldn't have usable RF systems, right? But on the flip side, are you hurting anybody when you transmit at 25 milliwatts versus 800 milliwatts on your VTX? You're probably not degrading anybody's experience. That's just an arbitrary place that the EU has drawn the line. And so that's a case where I don't think you're hurting anybody. And I wouldn't be, oh, you are such a bad person for doing that. How dare you? So there you go. There you go. Good discussion. Good discussion. Are Tramp VTXs better than Unify VTXs? Asks Epicness. Is there a difference? I mean, ImmersionRC makes good VTXs. There's no doubt. A lot of racers in the EU love them. They're good VTXs. Are they better than Unify? Who knows? Who knows? Regulations should not be imposed by manufacturers, says Leo Ponce. That's a tough one, Leo, because regulators notice when manufacturers allow users to skirt the law or break the law. And it is easier for regulators to go after manufacturers than it is for them to go after individual users. So I don't blame a manufacturer for trying to cover their butts. On the other hand, I think a lot of people respect TBS for giving them just enough rope. And TBS is in some sense taking a risk personally as a company that a regulator will notice and be like, hey, you can't do this. And TBS is choosing to accept a more precarious position than ImmersionRC, and they are reaping some benefit as a result from people who buy their product.